what you're gonna do about dinner?
We actually just pulled up to the pie shop.
You gonna have pie for dinner?
We're gonna have macaroni for dinner. We got leftover macaroni. We're gonna put that on top of the pie. This is gonna be an awesome dinner. I have chocolate ice cream.
The film centers on a quiet, unsettling mystery rooted in loss, guilt, and the passage of time. It opens in a cold, remote landscape where a young girl named Cassandra vanishes under circumstances that appear sudden and inexplicable. Her disappearance fractures the lives of everyone connected to her, especially her parents, Matthew and Tina, whose relationship collapses under the weight of grief and unanswered questions. The story establishes an atmosphere of emotional numbness and moral ambiguity, presenting a world where hope survives only in fragments and certainty is constantly undermined. Years pass, but the case refuses to die. Subtle, disturbing clues begin to surface, suggesting that Cassandra may not be dead after all. These hints are not presented as dramatic revelations, but as uneasy signals that reopen old wounds. The idea that a child could still be alive after so long creates a painful contradiction. Hope becomes both a comfort and a form of torture. The narrative uses this tension to explore how people cope with unresolved trauma and how time can distort memory, responsibility, and truth. Matthew is portrayed as a man consumed by guilt, convinced that a single moment of inattention destroyed his family. His emotional state is restrained, almost hollow, reflecting years of self-punishment. Rather than seeking redemption through action, he drifts through life as though serving a silent sentence. This internal collapse is contrasted with his persistent, unspoken belief that Cassandra might still be alive, a belief he barely allows himself to acknowledge. Tina's response to the loss takes a different form. Her grief hardens into anger and emotional withdrawal, not only from Matthew, but from the world around her. She attempts to rebuild her life, yet the absence of closure prevents genuine healing. Her character embodies the quiet devastation of a parent who has learned to survive without hope, only to have that fragile stability threatened when new information emerges. Parallel to the parent's story is the ongoing police investigation, led by detectives who never fully moved on from the case. Their work is methodical and subdued, emphasizing the slow, grinding nature of real investigations rather than dramatic breakthroughs. They follow leads that are often inconclusive, chasing fragments of evidence that may or may not matter. This approach reinforces the film's central theme: truth is elusive, and justice is rarely clean or satisfying. As the narrative unfolds, the audience is introduced to individuals operating in the shadows, hinting at a larger, more disturbing network connected to Cassandra's disappearance. These elements are revealed gradually, avoiding sensationalism. Instead, the film focuses on the psychological implications of exploitation and control, presenting evil as something quiet, organized, and disturbingly ordinary. The threat is not defined by spectacle, but by its persistence and secrecy. The story also periodically shifts perspective to Cassandra herself, now older, living under a different identity. These sequences are intentionally fragmented and restrained, offering glimpses rather than full explanations. Cassandra is depicted as a survivor shaped by fear, conditioning, and confusion. Her memories of her past life are incomplete, surfacing as emotional impressions rather than clear recollections. This portrayal avoids easy sympathy, instead presenting survival as a complex, often painful process. The tension between memory and identity becomes central to the film's emotional core. Cassandra's struggle is not simply about escape, but about understanding who she is, and whether reclaiming her past is even possible. The film raises difficult questions about whether survival alone is a victory when so much of the self has been altered or suppressed. These moments add depth to the narrative, shifting it beyond a conventional missing person story. The cast delivers restrained, internalized performances that align with the film's somber tone. The actors portraying the parents rely heavily on silence and subtle expressions, allowing grief to manifest through behavior rather than dialogue. This choice reinforces the realism of the story, making the emotional weight feel earned rather than performed. The supporting cast, particularly the investigators and secondary figures, contribute to the sense of a world quietly damaged by unresolved crimes. From a factual standpoint, the film is notable for its bleak visual style and deliberate pacing. The cold environments and muted color palette mirror the emotional desolation of the characters. Scenes often linger longer than expected, forcing the viewer to sit with discomfort rather than rushing toward resolution. This stylistic choice may feel challenging, but it is integral to the film's identity and thematic focus. The plot resists traditional structure, unfolding in a fragmented, non-linear manner. Timelines overlap, perspectives shift, and information is deliberately withheld. This approach reflects the confusion experienced by the characters themselves, particularly in cases where truth has been buried for years. Rather than providing constant clarity, the film demands patience and emotional engagement from the audience. As new evidence comes to light, the investigation begins to converge with the parents' personal journeys. Old assumptions are questioned, and moral responsibility becomes increasingly complex. The film avoids presenting any character as purely innocent or entirely guilty. Instead, it explores how small decisions, moments of weakness, and misplaced trust can have irreversible consequences. The release of the film positioned it as a dark, character-driven thriller rather than a mainstream mystery. Its marketing emphasized mood and psychological intensity over plot detail, reflecting the film's preference for implication rather than explanation. The promotional material focused on the emotional aftermath of loss and the haunting possibility of survival, setting expectations for a somber, unsettling experience. Information surrounding the film highlighted its serious tone and challenging subject matter, making it clear that this was not a conventional suspense story. Viewers were encouraged to approach it as an exploration of trauma and endurance, rather than a puzzle to be neatly solved. This framing helped define audience expectations and shaped critical discussion around its themes. As the story approaches its later stages, the possibility of reunion becomes increasingly tangible, yet the film refuses to romanticize this outcome. The emotional cost of recovery is emphasized, suggesting that even truth and closure come with lasting scars. The narrative underscores that time lost cannot be restored, and that survival does not erase suffering. The final movements of the plot focus on confrontation and recognition, rather than triumph. When connections between past and present are finally revealed, the impact is quiet but devastating. The film closes not with celebration, but with a sense of fragile continuation, acknowledging that healing is ongoing and incomplete. Overall, the film stands as a bleak, introspective examination of disappearance, survival, and the long shadow cast by unresolved loss. Its strength lies in its refusal to offer easy answers or emotional shortcuts. By prioritizing atmosphere, character psychology, and moral ambiguity, it delivers a story that lingers long after it ends, challenging viewers to consider the true cost of hope and the enduring consequences of what is taken and what remains.